Hey everybody, hope you're well, and it's James here, and we have Dwight with us. He's got lots to tell us today. There's lots of questions, so thank you to everybody who submitted them. But I think we're going to start with probably the biggest news for Krios for the start of 2020. Can you talk us through, Dwight, the award ceremony the other day?
Yeah, absolutely. So it was actually part of a convention, which was kind of nice. So we were piggybacked in with Washington Elite, which is a group we're part of. That is a bunch of Washington D.C. cryptophiles that are work within the government. Actually, one of the guys, Oz, works directly for President Trump, which is pretty cool, in the crypto stuff and education. But so we had I had the opportunity to tell them the Krios story, give them an update as to where we were as a business, kind of get a little bit more interest on those individuals, which are pretty high net worth individuals, into why they should invest into Krios as a token, and just good conversation. Got some very good contacts, some possible business deals that we might do together. There's a guy there that some people may know, Billy Lee, that was the CEO of Bitcoin China, which was a big trading platform. He has a new business that is kind of a metal digital credit card / wallet that's used for crypto tokens. It's very slick. He would actually like us to private label it so that we could send potentially our freelancers and employers a wallet that has Kree on it and use that for actual payments. It was super fast. I mean, I was actually surprised how easy it was to use and how quick it did the transactions. He actually did a $300 Bitcoin sale while we were sitting at the table across me and Teresa to Brock, who was sitting on the other side of Teresa. Gave him $300 and literally scanned his phone, and it showed up on his wallet literally as fast as he could flip it around to look at it. So, I mean, it's very cool stuff, and it was Bitcoin transferred, everything. So anyways, there were some partnership type things with that. Then Wednesday night, we actually had the awards banquet, which was very fun. Some, again, super high net worth individuals there. I mean, seriously, like Bitcoin billionaire types, which is always exciting to be able to be around and kind of tell the Krios story too. Teresa did she tried to keep people kind of up to date on the journey and trip there and some of the speaking things. There are some videos that were captured by the Washington Elite group that got sent up on our Telegram site as well. So that's kind of cool. But we won the coveted award. I mean, there was about 8 awards that were given out that night, from everything from, somebody that was probably most influential in crypto to the friendliest crypto person, some awards that, are nice to get, but it's certainly not as best as crypto investment of 2019. I mean, that's pretty exciting. So we're happy about that. And the standards around that were based pretty much strictly on numbers. We I think have some volume issues we got to worry about, not worry, but work on with the actual tokenization and the token pricing, tokenomics type stuff. But as far as the actual growth, when you look at the day that I actually acquired Krios until December 31st, we had grown over 1,400%. Which blows everybody away. The next closest company is an education company in China that is up 330%. So, I mean, numerically, we blew everybody away, which is really good as far as the actual growth of the token. Now, unfortunately, if you look at CoinMarketCap, it doesn't show that because they didn't track LA token during the period that we acquired that business. So you can't really see all of that data on CoinMarketCap, but that's fine. We're going to be at 25 cents this year anyway, so we'll just see that continued growth. But So the award was good. Yeah, very, very, very fun, very exciting. Dinner was I enjoyed it. Teresa not so much. It was a big fish with a head on right on your plate at the Versace mansion. It was the location was spectacular. I mean, beautiful beach weather, sunny, just great. So very, very good time. So everybody's going to ask, well, okay, so you won the award, now what? All right, so we would expect to see, we did see a little bit of buying happening kind of within 24 hours of the award. People need to understand that most of the people that were there are there for the blockchain convention as well, which was held downtown Miami, not over at Miami Beach where we were at. And they probably won't get home until tonight or tomorrow-ish type of times. I do know of several people that are when they get back are going to be buying, so that's a good thing. I mean, we definitely were able to increase the investor pool with significant people of high net worth. Probably I know of at least 15 that will buy as soon as I have some more communications with them next week, which is a good thing. Also, press. So we are working with several different outlets to actually get this into a story so that they'll show up on like CCN and Cointelegram and several of the other web-based news agencies and stuff like that, as well as a couple of other YouTubers have reached out. One of them is actually a member at the Washington Elite, and he said that he'd like to do one on us as well, which is pretty cool. So awesome. We'll see. So
I've just had a business idea, Dwight.
Okay.
What you do is you get some Dwight Speed, you put it in some jars, and you sell it to all the other companies, because when they want to know the secret, you say it's the Dwight Speed.
Yeah, well, what's kind of funny is the very first Washington Elite conference I went to was up in D.C., and that was probably about a month after we bought the project. And all of my conversation of those individuals up there were, well, this is what we got, and this is what we're shooting to get to. And now I'm able to go back to the conference and say, hey, we're there. And, not only are we there, but we had 1,400% growth. And that rolls some eyes back into people's heads. So, and quite honestly, I believe that 2020 is, that's nothing compared to what we're going to see this year coming forward. I mean, the fact that we now have a business, we now actually are transacting a business with cash and profits, I think is going to greatly increase that token price. There are some mechanical things that need to happen. Again, like I said, we're going to have to work on some volume issues, with everybody wanting to hold on to it. And we got some buyers, but the buyers are trying to buy it at a discount. And we got some sellers and they want a little bit more money. We've just got to we got to figure out a way to, even though everybody wants to buy and hold, we need to get some selling volume going on too, but it's got to be at the right price.
Yeah, I think this is the thing. I think as an investor, I think the magic number is definitely the ICO price. Once it gets past there, I think people might be a little bit more fluid in letting some volume go.
Yeah, and it's, I want productive volume. We obviously want volume that's increasing the price, not decreasing the price. And I think that's just based on, continuing to do the things it takes to be successful as a company. So that's on me, that part. So
I think it's interesting to hear about, like, obviously the most, all these influential people, and they're looking, because I think a lot of people thought that you'd go to the conference, they'd see the price spike up and stuff, and I suppose it's not quite that simple. Like you said, they're going away, they're looking at the project, you'll have conversations with people, and we'll start to maybe see that come in over the next X amount of weeks.
We did see some knee-jerk buys. I mean, there were several people that actually on their phone were buying it through the platform. They literally signed up as an employer and bought it while I was sitting there.
But it nearly went to 3 cents, I think.
Yeah, and they're paying spot price on that. Yeah, so that's they were, I think, around 21, 22 cents the first day.
Wow.
So that's good stuff. We also picked up some employers. One mentioned during my speech, and I don't know. I know Teresa sent you a lot of that, so I don't know if we can kind of make a video
Yeah,
together.
we'll add that
The,
all in.
the entire acceptance speech kind of thing. But one of the I'm starting to realize that we need to be proud of as a community is we're not just the guys like I was with that night that are out trying to make a lot of money. And they're trying to, they want to be mavericks of cryptocurrency, and they want to be mavericks in such a way that they make a lot of money. And that's really the focus of most of those projects that are out there. It's just like, we just want to make a lot of money. One of the things that Krios does, which is really nice, is we're actually good for employment around the world. So the impoverished people that maybe in Africa or India or somewhere that just don't have the capability, the wherewithal, or the funds to be able to tell people what they can actually do that they may be an expert at, whether it's accounting or, an administrative assistant, a remote administrative assistant, they can't get out to get the kind of paychecks that they could get with Krios. So I think that, outside of just the US and Australia and the UK, I think that Krios really actually has a good potential to affect, the world positively, to spread the wealth, to hire people that are actually skilled at what they do, regardless of where they're at. They don't have to be. That used to always frustrate me back in the days. We dealt with one of the companies I had. We had, 30,000 plus miles of fiber optics around the world. And all of our customers were like the AT&Ts and Verizons, people that were buying, super high bandwidth internets and stuff like that. And it used to always frustrate me. I'd go into their meetings and they'd say, well, we hired some people, but, they've got to be in our office. It's like, well, why do they got to be in your office? Just because you're in Atlanta or Norcross or New York City or wherever you may be, they don't have to sit in your office to be productive. I've always used freelancers. I mean, it's to me, I've been passionate about the fact that what I really enjoy about freelancing is the fact that I don't have to buy you to try you. I think that's probably the most exciting thing to me about a freelancer is, and we're going to talk about it a little bit further down, but I'm going to say it right here. So one of the things that we did was we went out and hired a whole bunch of freelancers. We hired some from our platform. We hired some from Fiverr to go out and build us display ads for our employer part of the marketing system. And it's interesting to see the quality of work that comes back. I mean, some guys aren't going to get a second chance because theirs was not so good. Some of the guys that came back was outstanding. I mean, if I could put them in a seat in my office, I would. But I got to try them. It cost me $50, and they made 6 different size banners for me, and they had to come up with a creative. They had to come up with the actual text on there and what's going to draw you in and stuff like that. And like I say, for $300, I got probably 3 guys that I can use consistently at a low price. I'm not paying rent, I'm not paying electric, I'm not having to buy them a computer. I mean, there's just so many good benefits to having a freelancer platform as part of your employment packages that you do as an employer. So I think that's the message I think we really need to be kind of shouting from the roof at this point is what is the benefit? The benefit to the freelancer, that's pretty obvious. We all understand freelancing is it's great to work for yourself if you have the discipline to do the work, but it also gives you the flexibility of working anywhere in the world. I mean, you could be an American citizen, but you're so good at translating, Russian to English that you're sitting on a beach somewhere doing it. What's wrong with that? That's great.
And I think
So the freelancer side, I think, is pretty easy for them to understand. I think the hardest part is going to be for us to preaching to the employer side. Just try it, you'll love it. The ability, especially here in the U.S. with some of the new healthcare regulations that we're struggling with and stuff like that. If a freelancer, I'm not paying health care for him. I can pay him a rate where he can pay his own health care. That's not that. I'm not saying that they're getting stuck on that, but it just saves a lot of the red tape that it takes to hire employees, and the fact that most of the time an employer, and I know the last big company I actually worked for, the one that we sold Zenobia off to, they had a marketing department, and they did an outstanding job. I probably one of the best marketing departments I've ever worked with. But but they expected the individuals that worked within that department in New York City to sit at a desk and to be creative and to know all the parts of the creativity. Not only to understand the copyright and what was desirable verbiage to use in making something happen, but also how to make use Photoshop and make the image small enough that it doesn't take too long to load on a page, and all of these skill sets that you can be. This is something my dad used to always tell me. He always said, Dwight, you can be a jack of all trades or you can be a master of one. And I think with freelancing and the gig economy that's going on, having masters of one is just way better. I mean, you end up with a better product at the end of the day because everybody knows one part of that process and they're experts at it. It might be somebody that knows how to do a Google ad campaign better than somebody that knows how to do a Facebook campaign, or somebody that knows how to get Instagram followers. All of those things are absolutely different skill sets. And you can hire somebody to help me get Instagram people. Okay, well that's cheaper than hiring somebody that knows everything kind of well. Just hiring somebody that knows something very well. So that's where in my thoughts, that's exactly where employers need to kind of be getting their heads around it, and they are. I mean, if you look at all the statistics that come out of all the companies, somebody told me at the conference actually that they had read an article like a week ago that said by the end of 2022, that's only 2 years away, that 80% of the U.S. employees would be freelancers of some sort. That wasn't something I read. I mean, this is a guy that came up to me and said, that was a great speech you just gave. And by the way, it's kind of interesting because I just read this article. So we actually picked up some employers while we were at the conference too. I know of at least 3 companies that are going to be reaching out on our platform and using us instead of Upwork and Fiverr that they currently use. So that's a good thing.
Awesome.
So I know I kind of rambled there, didn't I?
No, it's good. I think it's good. It's good for people to understand like the context behind it all.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it sounds like a good idea and all these types of things, but when you really put the color and the context behind it, I think people now can see that bigger picture of your vision, what you see, where it's going, and like you say, you're a master of probably quite a few things actually, but this is your thing, if you will, and you can see that bigger picture, and it just helps other people understand, I think.
Yeah, and I think, and that's that is what we are, and people need to understand that. We have a token economy around Cree, and that's based on the success of the company, and that's something I've preached since day one. What I thought was interesting. We sat around and listened to a bunch of the different speeches from the different companies that were out there and stuff like that. In fact, I was on a couple of panels, and one of the panels was pretty specific to this. Everybody, I guess the Washington meeting I did was probably June, my end of June, maybe 1st of July or somewhere around that time frame. I was the only guy on the stage that was preaching, put a brick and mortar behind your token if you want it to be successful. Everybody that spoke said the exact same thing this time.
They call it the I don't know if you've seen the video, but what they call the lone nut. Like the first you've got to be first. And everyone will look at you and go, what's he doing? And then one person joins you. Now that's when the momentum starts, and then everybody else will start picking it up.
Yeah.
But you hit the nail on the head in terms of the business model that is required to give, because it's a great idea to have a token that everybody uses.
Right.
But if it's got no value, no one's going to use it. And you sort of identified that and said, actually, let's give it some value. Then people will want to use it.
Yeah, and that's, a year ago, nobody was even thinking of that. All they were thinking of is, hey, I can do an ICO and make some money and, go buy a car or something. They weren't thinking about the actual business structure of how to make it work and stuff like that. And that's, I think that's one of the things that's interesting in the model that we did, was that we took for all intents and purposes, a failed token. I mean, there was no software at all behind it when we got a hold of it. I mean, it literally was a failed token, and used it in such a way that it benefits the company. But not only does it benefit the company, it helps fix the problem that was created by the original administration of people had invested in something that they can't get their money back out of. So it just works well. I mean, it really, really, really works well. I've done a bunch of M&A in my life. We've done everything from, trying to take a company public that was literally, making tens of millions of dollars a month, and needed to go public because, there was that fiber company that we had, and it was just literally costing. I mean, we were buying these $900,000 routers, and we were having to buy like 4 or 5 a week just to keep up with the growth of this thing. I mean, that gets expensive really damn quick. That's what you need a public facility for. But by the time we got into it, fortunately, we got it sold off to actually a utility company, and then actually my sales guy bought it back from them, which was really cool. Great story, great story. He's done an outstanding job with that business. It's the number 2 largest CDN platform on the planet right now. But we did some reverse mergers where you go to a company that's either failed or a shell company that somebody's built, and they got their 200 shareholders and did all their stuff you got to do for the SEC to get listed in the pink sheets here in the United States. They were always a nightmare and expensive. I mean, we probably had $1.5 million worth of legal fees in the company we were trying to bring public in 6 months, just trying to get the company public. The public company that we sold Zenobia off to, I know their legal bills were several $1 million a year just to keep their listing over in the London Stock Exchange. So, I mean, to take a token where you don't have that burden to the company and be able to do the same thing exactly without those costs, I mean, it's good for everybody. I mean, it's money we don't have to spend, which is money we get to profit share with. So,
and I think that the community is very positive. They're very upbeat. I think since you've come in, I think people bought into the concept, and that was, it's always been a very exciting concept. And I just think the last team brought it to a point where they brought it to a certain level, and it just needed to go into the next, and you brought the A game, which is what people were expecting all along. But I think there was a recognition that wasn't going to happen, and you had the skills, experience, and now we're looking at probably another award in 2020, maybe.
Honestly, I think we will. I mean, short of the market turning around and some of our, getting some good, strong competition that's kind of taken the same model that I started with, I think that we are going to have an exciting 2020. I mean, just hold on to it. Everything that we have kind of set in place, whether it's the company buying back Krios based on the spending of the freelancers, all of those kind of things are going to make for just a stupid successful 2020. I mean, you shrink the outstanding tokens, and you raise the price. I mean, that's just stock market 101. I mean, there's absolutely no doubt with that. You start paying dividends, and I know everybody's crying for dividends and wanting dividends. We all do. that is going to be it's a forklift upgrade, and we have one guy in our Telegram group that's really begging for us to do a pre first quarter dividend, and between you, me, and the fence post, there are some opportunities that potentially could happen between now and then that would allow me to execute something like that. So there could be some fun for your first quarter. There's nothing the nice thing about not being regulated and not having to do stuff is we can do it as we make it. We don't have to set ex-dividend dates and stuff like that. But what you do got to do is you got to sign up for KYC. Yeah. So if you're going to participate,
and I suppose on the back of that, if might let's put in might look at something like the monthly one just to really get that momentum and get people knowing about it. I suppose will that be backed up with some sort of articles and stuff? Because I think that's the main thing, because everybody's like hearing about it, and one of the big questions we've got a little bit later on is like, are we going to get a quarter dividend? And I think you've already sort of highlighted here that you could potentially do it monthly. So I don't think anyone's got anything to worry about. It's just maybe where we're tracking versus the plan, probably a little bit later down the line as such.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And, I do think we're going to need to, when we start making those dividends, obviously, again, trying to pick up the press and make sure that the world kind of knows what's going on with it, because that's what's going to help drive the price up. There'll be more demand. If we can increase the amount of demand, we'll increase the price of the token. So, several things work on that. So, I think it's evil genius to, and this was highly paid for. Let me put it out there, is in our airdrop that we did. One of that is, if there's any failure that I think I've done so far, driving the ship here, is that airdrop, because it immediately went to people that had no interest in Krios, and they literally dumped it, and they tanked our market. We didn't have a lot of volume as it was already, and we ended up buying back a lot of cheap Krios because people were taking their 250 Krios and selling them off. But the good news that came out of that is I learned that I am not going to do dividends in Kri. So one of the things that will hopefully increase the demand side of that is the fact that we're going to be paying you guys out in Ethereum, and with Ethereum you can buy more Kri. You can go buy whatever you want, or you can buy more Kri, hopefully, and that's going to create more demand and keep rising the price. One of our newer people in the Telegram group is wise enough to understand that there's kind of a double win. Not only does the price go up, but the dividends. You got the dividends going on. So you're making money and not losing your asset, kind of thing, which is a really good thing. So.
And I think there's a lot of speculation on the Ethereum price right now. Over the next 18 months, they're talking 2,000 to 2,500. So again, there's a lot of reasons to believe in the model as it stands right now.
Yeah. Ethereum's got a good model. I mean, of the cryptocurrencies, and one of the videos I think Teresa sent you from the forum that I was in, I probably said something that was very unpopular, and that was the fact that cryptos, the way they stand today, without some sort of asset behind them, are nothing. I mean, nobody. If the American economy started to tank, and this was actually one of the guys that has a Chinese company in Singapore, and he was like, well, cryptos are just going to go to the moon. That we're going to see $100,000 Bitcoin, in the next 8 months, and all this other kind of stuff. And I'm thinking, no, man, you're not. I mean, if the economy is doing good, and I know there in England, you guys are probably about to start to feel some of the benefits of different type of administration that we are here in the U.S. And that's our economy is kicking ass. Sorry, pardon my French there, but I mean, when it's doing good, people are more interested in investing in that kind of stuff than they are into a crypto that has no business behind it. And it's a very unpopular, especially at a crypto conference, for me to sit on a panel in front of a bunch of people, the gas fee and everything that goes along with it, and it actually serves a purpose. It's got the blockchain that we ride on, ERC20 and stuff like that. So I mean, there's actual use to that token. Kind of like Bitcoin. What do you got? You got nothing. I mean, you got a bunch of miners that are out there that are paying power bills that are trying to keep the thing running. And that's a scary investment in my opinion. But I think people understood what I was saying. It's like if the economy tanks, they said, well, people are going to rush to the asset class. We're going to be the fifth asset class that's out in the market with cryptos. And I'm like, no. If the economy goes down, what do people do? They buy silver and gold. They buy something they can put their hands on and stick in their safe or in their basement. I mean, that's traditionally what happens. They're not going to buy a cryptocurrency that if somebody doesn't mine today is worthless. I mean, that's what happens with Bitcoin. I mean, all of a sudden somebody cracks the code and they can figure it out. Guess what? It's worthless.
Obviously, I interviewed John McAfee, who is a character in the space and a bit of a lead. And one of the conversations, video's not quite out yet, but it will be. He talked about, Bitcoin's not the future, and he talked very much about Monero quite a lot, but Ethereum, the smart contracts, that functionality, enabling, for you to be able to do what you've done with the Krios project, that's where the value is going to come. And he was quite open about that, and everybody knows that he was going to eat his own genitalia if it didn't hit £1 million. I mean, one of the best marketing stunts we've ever seen. Keeps him really relevant and keeps him in the space. But he highlighted the point that you've just made, which is really interesting. And I've got to say, I made most of my money in the space in Ethereum, not Bitcoin, but most people know Bitcoin. So
yeah, they do. I mean, it's definitely the queen of the coins for sure. Bitcoin is, but I think that people need to, I think one of the things that we saw, which was somewhat unfortunate, we actually saw the price rise prior to the conference, which was good. People are out buying it, speculating on who heard of that we were going to the conference. And the best I saw, I think, was like 224 or 245. I think was the best I saw. But shortly during the conference, it started to go down, and everybody's like, "What the hell? What Dwight stuff on his feet and screw up? And why is it going down?" It's got nothing to do with that. It's got to do with the fact that the Ethereum prices were going up, which would lend you to believe that Cree would go up with that Ethereum price, but that's not true because you have people dumping Cree to get into Ethereum because all of a sudden now they're like, "Oh, there's a new girl in the room I want to dance with." So that's a lot of, I think, what we were seeing. I was actually tracking especially P2P here, which traders here in the U.S. can use. There were some people selling off some pretty big chunks of Cree just to get Ethereum, it looked like. So, whatever, that's fine. They can pay me 5 cents a token when I'm the new girl in the room again, and we're paying dividends.
And it won't be long. We've actually done 2 of all of our questions, so we've got quite a few to go through. So the one big one that's come up in the group is about the support function. So if people are on the site and they do need help, what's the process and how do people get help on the site?
So occasionally our support people have the instant chat loaded, and you can actually just click the little ball down at the bottom of our screen and you can chat with them. If they are not on there, it will ask you to basically leave your question and your email address and they get back to you. They're actually doing really well at that, I think. It is I think they're probably getting back within an hour, maybe 2. We've got it set up now where we're covering 24/7 around the world with individuals that access and keep that up to date. So that part's good. There are some things that they have to come to me to ask for. If they need an account removed and stuff like that, they don't have direct access to the mothership, basically the support people at this point. So.
Yeah, I suppose as the project builds, you'll obviously have that infrastructure that will come with that as well. One of the questions that came in was around, and I think you've talked about this a little bit already, is why put Krios on a crypto model versus just, because it's a great idea, it's a growing market. Why don't you just do it USD or pounds or whatever?
Yeah. Yeah, actually, my reasoning was that the fact that it did end up looking like a reverse merger. So I'm able to have a financial facility that I can generate, additional wealth with, basically, for myself and for other people, that is based around something that is a little more easier entry and a whole lot less expensive to maintain. So we're not out doing ICOs and IEOs and all that other kind of stuff like most of the companies are that are out trying to raise money. This is, personally, we're dumping a lot of cash into this project, Trace and myself, in an effort to get this somewhere. And, I think we've done, obviously, a very good job. I think there's nobody's going to say differently over the last 8 months getting there. And, mark your words, we are very financially invested into this business, so we're going to make sure it works. That's, it's not just, a guy that starts an ICO. They may not have had any more money than it took to actually create an ICO in that project, whereas we have our cash and capital in this business and didn't receive any cash out of it. So there's a little different mindset there. But, I think I do think right now that Krios as a payment method is probably not something wise. I think we gotta get a mature market, with volumes and more stability, and obviously everybody understands probably some more exchanges as well that are probably larger ones. But I do see us moving there. I think the fact that we will pay in Bitcoin and Ethereum if asked for is a pretty solid proposition, as well as the 130 fiat currencies that we're able to take money in and pay out on as well. So I think there are some things that we've done compared to the competition that the token helps with. So, with the token, we're all exposed, especially nowadays, to KYC processes and AML and all that kind of good stuff. KYC is something that the other two, my other three big competitors, Upwork, Fiverr, and Freelancer, none of them do that. Freelancer says, okay, prove that you got a Facebook page. Okay, we've checked your Facebook page. Okay, prove you got a Twitter account. Okay, we've checked your Twitter account. You and I can create both of those in a matter of a minute, probably, as far as accounts, and be able to get those signed off on, basically saying, hey, okay, well, we know this guy because we know his Instagram's real, his Twitter's real, and his Facebook's real. No. Let's do KYC and find out the person's real. I think that's something that we have. It's already in the system. It shows up as a badge for people that have purchased KYC via the site. Right now, we're still working on integrating like everybody that did KYC for the actual profit sharing. But that that I think is going to be kind of the next level. Hopefully they're not listening to this because I don't want them to do it before I get us big with something like this. But I think as 80% of the employees in the U.S. become freelancers, people are going to want to know they're real people. I mean, real companies want to know real people. And whether you got a Facebook account or not doesn't prove that you're a real person. So, when we've got, we got everything. We got driver's license pictures and, selfies and gas bills and whatever that prove that you're a real person. We know who you are if you do something nefarious. And I think that safety feature in net for an employer is very strong. So.
And I suppose that also you've got the distribution of the profits as well, that you can do it via the token, and there's less friction versus, like you said, the lawyer costs and things like that as well.
Yeah, much less friction. Let me put it this way: I'm not having to hire corporate counsel that sits in our office every day like all the other companies I've had to work for. I've literally had a lawyer in every one of my company's offices, and it was primarily because of SEC stuff. Whether it was contracts because we got a bazillion contracts, or whether it was because we had investors that we had to, do quarterly reports and annual reports and all that kind of good stuff for, or whether it was SEC compliance. I mean, you literally had somebody in your office that's, that's a healthy 3-digit paycheck to have to pay for somebody that's a lawyer actually is capable of handling those type of issues. It's going to sit in your office all the time. I mean, it gets expensive. So, and Rhythm had an office of lawyers. We had 400 employees, and I think there were 5 lawyers in that 400 employees just because they were a publicly held company. So yeah, the friction of having a token as your business, financial device versus a stock definitely makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, we've got legal counsel at our place, and it's quite a large team as well for many reasons. Another one of the questions that came in was, versus the competitors, what are the key benefits for the freelancers themselves, but also the customers that are coming to the site?
Yeah. So I think for the customer side, I think one of the big benefits is the fact that we will vet. If you ask the freelancer that you like to fill out the KYC, if they've not already gotten the badge, we do the vetting for them to make sure that they're a real person. I think that's huge. I think that as people understand we do that and others don't, we'll start to see some movements towards us. We are financially less costly for both sides. So an employer saves about 2.5% in a transaction versus an Upwork or a Fiverr transaction, and the freelancer saves upwards of 10%. So I mean, those are big benefits to it. I think some of the things that we have on the roadmap of development, I think will also give us some more strategic stuff. Some of the things that we're pretty in tune. In fact, one of the crypto companies I was talking to last week, this is what they do. They actually do knowledge blockchain. So they go to the colleges and look at people, do you have a degree in what? And that becomes part of the blockchain that we're able to go out to the blockchain and see, hey, John Smith's got an engineering degree from MIT. And it's actually, it's verified by the colleges for some of this stuff. So we'd like to integrate something with that company. And that was a good contact that I made while I was there, where we're able to take these freelancers, especially as we try to move more out of the graphic arts website type freelancers into the actual professionals, rent a CTO for a month if that's what you need to do, that kind of stuff. Having that information available on our site so that the employers can actually say, hey, yeah, this guy's got an MIT degree in engineering, that's important. So I think some of those things that are coming out are probably hopefully we can get ahead of the competition with some of that stuff. I don't think that they see that as important. One of the things I've learned in business, and then I'm going to kind of go off a little bunny trail here, that has always proven well for me, is that when there are companies, for example, IBM, that come out and they literally own the space. I mean, back in the 80s, everything was an IBM compatible computer, and you had to pay them for the chips that ran the chips and all kinds of stuff. And they made a truckload of money, and they got fat, dumb, and happy. And guess what? They didn't focus on their market. And what Apple do? Apple comes in and they say, we're just the little guys. We got these little plastic keyboards and we don't have these big monitors and all this other kind of stuff. But we really focus on the kids and schools and computers in schools and all this other kind of stuff. Well, guess what happens? Those kids grow up. They want a Mac. You're sitting at somebody's desk in an office and they say, well, here's your PC, and you're used to using a Mac. You're going to say, hold on. Do you got a Macintosh? And eventually corporations bent, and now, there's probably as many Macs, if not more, that are being sold in IBM compatible type devices. So I think I am hoping at this point, especially with like Upwork, I think they're just making just stupid money. I mean, I don't even know how they're trying to figure out how to spend as much as they're making, but I think they're fat, dumb, and happy at this point. I think that the three big guys that we're competing against right now, if we come in, and this is my Air Force stuff, if we come in under the radar, flying low and slow, we can drop them bombs on those guys before they even know it. And I think we're set up to do that. So it's one of the things my wife always jokes about with me. In fact, she's bought some cool stuff that we have always since day one, pretty much, that I've ever owned a business. My goal is global domination. Period. End of story. I don't play for second. I don't play for third. I don't play just to be part of the game. I want to be number one. And we can learn from our predecessors, and we can learn from the people that currently are better than us, and that's what I always try to do. What did they do right? What did they do wrong? Let's get this into a better space than they do. And like I say, with the money that they're making, those three companies are making right now, their executive team, I guarantee you, is fat, dumb, and happy. They're not looking for better ways to make money or better ways to service the employers or better ways to service the freelancers or payments and all that kind of stuff. And I think it creates an opportunity. And every industry has this. Every industry's got the big guy. It was Chevrolet. Now Chevrolet can't keep the doors open almost. It's like they get fat, dumb, and happy. They get too big. They get too many employees, and they can't either make money or they can't move fast enough. They become a big ocean liner trying to, turn on a quarter where a speedboat can. It's like that. It's a mentality that business has done historically forever. And I think we're in a good position to take advantage of that at this point. So to those, back up the bunny hole, to those 2 points that you're making, I think that there are easy benefits to see. Pricing. I mean, that's simple, but I don't want to get in a price war. Price wars are never good for any company. So, we are kind of there because of where we're at as far as a company at this point. But I think that some of the benefits that we have, like the KYC that we're doing, the ability to take more currencies than the other companies do. I mean, right now, the other companies, you got to pay in USD and that's it. If you're the employer and you're in England, you're converting yours to USD as you pay it. So we don't do that. We got 130 currencies. Boom. If you're in Ukraine and you need to buy a freelancer, you can spend Ukrainian dollars. And that I think makes a big difference too. So,
as you were talking there, Dwight, I was thinking, obviously, with like Conor McGregor, we're not here to take part. We're here to take over. I think he'd be good on one of the adverts. Give him a little call. I'm sure he'd oblige.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just order a crate of the old Proper 21 whiskey and away you go.
Absolutely.
Or Proper 12, isn't it? Proper 12.
There's a couple of, as we create more money in the company to spend more on the marketing efforts, there's a couple of things, and I was kind of not kidding, hopefully not, with some of the people in the Telegram group. I want us to have a Super Bowl ad. I mean, right now they're about $5.5 million for the ad, for a 30-second ad, and one of our users said, well, use freelancers, make it about the freelancers and stuff like that. Oh, what a great idea. I mean, but I want us to have the ability to get the word out in that type of volume. 93 million eyeballs watched the Super Bowl last year. 93 million. So $5.5 million for 30 seconds means that I get 93 million people listening to my story for 30 seconds for a nickel a piece. That's good money. That's good. That's money well spent.
Yeah.
I mean, when you think about it in those terms, I just don't have a $5.5 million check right now I can write to do that, but we'll be there. So 2000. This is considered the 2020. So I'm hoping maybe even 2021 we could have a Super Bowl ad. But yeah, Conor McGregor would be high on the list to get as a sponsor as well.
Yeah, I think he's got the perfect slogan for you.
I don't know. I'd have to lock my daughter up because she thinks he's the bomb diggity.
Oh yeah, I think he'd be he would. He'd be good. He sort of turned the corner somewhat, but he's Mr. Nice Guy now instead of giving it large. But we'll see. We'll see on the next fight. Depends how much the paycheck is, I suppose.
Right.
We had a bunch of questions about numbers, so I'll just go through it. So one of the big questions was, how many people have signed up for the KYC for the actual bonuses?
Yeah. So an interesting number on that the KYC holder guys are probably going to like the most is that we're less than 50% of where we were in the big fish as far as signups, as far as quantity of people signing up. The bad news for that, though, is that the larger holders obviously are signing up. I mean, because they're the ones that are going to gain the most out of it. But that being said, it's probably somewhere between the 50 and 65% mark of actual tokens that are registered so far compared to the big fish. So, and I kind of weighed the big fish as the people that will KYC versus the ones that won't, and the people that I don't know why they wouldn't. We've actually made that process pretty darn simple. We worked with BlockPass at the CEO level for weeks trying to make that super easy for people to get through, but still give us what we need as far as should the SEC ever look at what we're doing, we're good to go. Yeah. So. Okay. But yeah, there's less than I would have expected. Have done that. Quite honestly, I would figure that we weren't charging anybody for it, so it's not like you have to pay like the freelancers do, the $9 to get your KYC badge done. So we ate that cost ourselves. But it's yeah. I mean,
I suppose to anyone who has signed
do all the math. Yeah, I'd have to do all the math, but right now, spitballing the actual number of Krios, probably somewhere between 45 million and maybe 50 million that I can see out there.
Wow.
So,
well, I suppose for those who have, they're going to be very happy because obviously the less people that sign up, the more money there is to share around for everyone else.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I was saying earlier, not just to you, was that for every $100,000 at 40 million Kree, if that's what's in the KYC pot, that's a quarter of a penny for every $100,000 of profit share. So it could be a pretty damn exciting year for shareholders.
Yeah.
Based on that quantity that has actually been KYC approved. Yeah.
And I suppose
so the less, the more money you guys get.
And I suppose following on from that is obviously you've provided a forecast over the last for the next 2 years, and you've done it by month. How are we tracking currently? I know it's very early days, but how are we tracking versus sort of the numbers that you're expecting?
So I'm a very transparent person. We are not tracking the numbers that I would have liked to be tracking. I'll say that right now, and our token just went to a penny probably. But it's we have. I'm not willing at this point to remove my. I think it was $98 million, or I think at the conference I think I said $95 million, but $90+ million of gross revenue to the company for 2020. I honestly firmly believe that I can match that. And if you know me, I'm going to promise something that I know I can meet, and it's probably less than I think I can meet. That being said, we are definitely having some problems getting the employer ball spun up. But that is good in a way, in the fact that it causes us to learn what it is we actually have to do. So I think earlier I was mentioning we hired a bunch of freelancers to make ads and their own content and see who was good and who was bad and stuff like that. The platform that we use in the digital track platform gives us an enormous amount of intel out of what's working and what's not working. So we can actually tell based on those ads whether people want to see a person in an ad, or they like an orange color versus a blue color, and all these kind of things. And based on the performance that those ad units are doing across the display networks and Google at this point, it gives us a lot more information to be able to more tune who we're talking to and what we're trying to get to. So I think we're definitely on the right path. There's some things that we're doing next week. I think that's probably, we'll see an incremental increase in the employers. Right now online, we've got a little over 1,000 employers that are signed up. They're just not spending a lot of money. That's where we got to work at. I think we've got to take some of the friction out of it. So you'll see next week a bunch of new advertising-based landing pages that we have, so that when you click on an ad, you're not coming to our site so much as you're coming to a page specifically either about what it is we're advertising. So we are, one reason the more popular categories is like web development and graphics at this point, is because we are actually doing ads for graphic artists and ads for web developers. So I think that might skew that pot a little bit. But we're going to be creating landing pages specifically for those ad groups. So if you're looking for a WordPress developer, you ought to land on a page that at least has the word WordPress on it, right? Not just freelancer. So I think that's one of the things that we're working through this week. And I think that's going to be a forklift increase in the number of people that actually sign up to post jobs out there. The gigs are starting to pick up. I mean, we've got one thing, and I'm always open for suggestions, other than, we could probably hire some freelancers to help us out with that. But one of the things that's interesting is, we have some very quality freelancers out there, and we have some that aren't so much quality. And I'm tempted to programmatically go through and, if you didn't take the time to fill out your bio on there, or you didn't take the time to post a gig on there, maybe I'm going to shut you off, that kind of stuff. Because I do want to keep it high quality, but we've had jobs posted out there which were basically like Tupperware sales. Well, how does our company get paid on that? That we probably don't. So we're probably going to need a little bit more manual labor on some of these things that we're seeing, whether it's the signups, whether it's helping the freelancers, create a more conducive page for them. One of the benefits, another benefit that we do, I think that we do a better job than the other freelancing sites are, is that we give you a profile page. So on ours, there's actually a URL on your page that you can post to all your social networks and all that kind of stuff, and it'll bring people back to you so that they use you when they're looking for work. And I think we do a very good SEO job on that page, and I can tell because when I'm looking at the Google Analytics screen for real time at any point, the number of personal pages that are being hit exceeds all the other pages of the site. So that means that we've done a good job on the SEO. And I can see in the Google search engine application, we can actually see, what the words were, what was searched for, and what pages they got to. And it's that part we've done very well for the freelancers. So
I suppose following on for that you talked about like graphics and different bits, what are the sort of the big ticket items or gigs, if you will, do you think? And is it worth going after them?
Yeah, so I mean, big, the ones that are probably most prevalent now, if we're not cutting a new path. So like I said, you get these big monsters in front of us, the 3-pack of monsters, our competition in front of us. They're mowing a path in front of us, and we're not having to be the guys that says, okay, I just invented a light bulb that floats in the air and doesn't have any wires. I'm not having to market that and tell everybody, okay, my light bulb doesn't have any wires and floats in the air. Okay, well, it sounds cool, but who's going to buy it? They've kind of cultivated the fields in front of us, in my opinion, with the more of the web development, graphic-y kind of marketing kind of people that even on their sites, other than Upwork's, probably got a little bit more on the programming side. Those guys, that's the predominant revenue that they're making as well. What I'd like to see us do, there's two things that I'd like to get us to accomplish in 2020, and that's a short list, and that is that we have a broader type of freelancers to include everything from rent a CTO for a week if you need to. If you need somebody to take a look over your organization and, are these people doing what they are? Instead of hiring a consultant that may or may not do the right thing by you, use us. Let us provide you a CTO or something like that. The other thing I think that is could be interesting for us, and I've got a little bit more research to do on this, but is more of the localized gigs. So not only can you get graphics done, and you could go down the street and sit and have coffee to talk to the guy about the banner ads, but if you needed your lawn mowed, why not? Why can't a kid put a gig out there? I'll mow your lawn if you're within 10 miles of my house. You know, I think that's played in some other platforms, but it's not played in a freelancing gig type of environment. It's more of like a contractor. Hire a contractor to come put a roof on your house, or hire a contractor to, fix your windows or toilets or whatever. That's it's a little different than where I'm kind of thinking we could potentially go with this.
So this spots the expandability somewhat.
Yeah. Another thing I want to do in first quarter is to create a bit of artificial intelligence within our application, so that when job people are posting their job, as they're typing their requirements, we're kind of going through and saying, okay, so the guy just typed WordPress development. Okay, ding, ding, ding. We got 1,600 of those guys out there, and we can start to narrow take the top of the funnel and kind of narrow it down to the specialist that they're probably going to be most interested in, and do that programmatically. At one point, I thought it would be great if I had 10 people that were basically reaching out to the employers that posted jobs saying, okay, well, let us help you hire the right guy. This is what you want. These are the people that can kind of help you out, and maybe have a manual process in there. I'd really like to see that automated, simply for the cost of it, and it would be very labor intensive. When we get to the size of it, like freelancer.com, I mean, they're getting 3-4 jobs a second or a minute. Sorry, that's kind of ridiculous to think that you'd be making telephone calls to that employer and helping them out. Yeah, might get a little expensive, but so I think some of that stuff is kind of my 2020 plan and future things that we can add to it. But I know one of the things, and unfortunately your last question as I'm looking at it on my screen, is that what is my focus over the next 4 weeks? Back to the question we're currently in, my focus is absolutely the garnering of employers, because that's where the rubber meets the road. So I think we've learned a lot. We're learning more. I think we're going to get better at that over time. I do have some hours next week set up with an individual that actually ran campaigns for 2 of our competitors. That is going to hopefully give me a lot of secret handshake stuff to try to get stuff done better, as well as we are looking through my LinkedIn profile for individuals that were previous employees of our competitors to see if we might be able to get them to do some freelancing for us and get some more of that secret handshake, secret sauce. So
I think we call it at my business steal with pride.
Yeah, steal with pride. Well, I'm not stealing them. I'm not going after their current employees. I'm going after their former employees. So I don't feel too bad about that.
Yeah, that's all right.
But honestly, if one of their current employees wants to come over to my side, they can come on over too.
That's a really good overview. So we've had numbers, reasons, the awards. There are just a few more questions that came in. So one of the questions was about repeat business. So how do you stop people, getting a gig on the site and then thinking, I like you and I'm going to go elsewhere? How do you stop that? And also, what are the risks for those particular people as well?
So, I mean, that's definitely a problem. We actually have a messaging system in the platform where an employee and an employer can talk to each other. It allows them to basically have a chat conversation between each other. I downloaded that table to an Excel spreadsheet right before I left to the convention, and was kind of going through there just to see what the chatter was and stuff like that. And there is an awful lot of abuse of our system. that we're working on some artificial intelligence type stuff to help us circumvent. I'm probably going to be draconian about that and shut those accounts off mid-conversation when that kind of stuff happens. And so how do you get repeat business, or how do you ensure that you're getting that paycheck every month if it's somebody that's doing a job? So, like I had mentioned, I've used freelancers as long as Odesk was around. Actually, I used Odesk and Elance an awful lot while we were building one of our companies, Zenovia. A lot of the employees came from that. I have a sysadmin that's over in London that works for Technology Geeks and for the digital track side of the table, and he manages all my computers. I mean, if we need upgrades on the servers, if we're getting too much packet loss, if something goes boom in the night, he's the guy that fixes it. I still pay him through Upwork. I've paid him for years through Upwork because it allows me to pay as he's needed. I'm not having to pay him a salary. I'm not paying him $500 a month to monitor stuff. I pay him as I need him. And I think that that's something that employers are going to get used to and like. I think one of the other things is, small jobs, it's some guy that doesn't care about his taxes or doesn't understand how to do business and he needs some banner ads made. Yeah, we may lose those kind of guys. But as we start to infiltrate the more traditional businesses that are, 25 people and more, those people understand the fact that if I hire a contractor, now I got a tax problem I got to deal with. I got to, if I'm paying John Doe directly, I'm going to have to 1099 him here in the United States. And that's basically something that I send to the IRS that says I paid this individual. I got to get his social security number. I got to get his address. I got to get all this kind of stuff, which a freelancer might not be willing to do. And send that off to the government to be filed for this year's taxes. Not only is it more paperwork for the employer, it's kind of scary for a freelancer to, give away a social security number. Mm. In a marketplace like this, those aren't requirements in this kind of a marketplace currently.
Okay.
So I think that's one thing that's going to possibly help with employee retention over long periods as we move out of these like gig type jobs where it's like I got a spot job I needed to do, to where it's like Chris that I use as my sysadmin, where it's like, okay, I need you when I need you. You know my systems, my logins. You've got everything you need. And when I need you, let me send you an email or Skype or whatever, and we get things solved. And I think that is, as we move more into those type of employees on the freelancing platform, I think we'll see a lot more traction.
And I suppose they're going to spend in more money as well.
Yeah, they do. Well, they spend that. What's nice is it's constant money. I mean, when we were setting up an exchange platform for a company, and Chris was my guy, and they were a big company in California and had a lot of computers, and he got a lot of money. I mean, it was a couple $1,000 a week type Upwork bills that I was getting, and that like I say, I've been paying him for 4 or 5 years on Upwork as a platform like that, just because that's easier for me as a businessman. I've never had to figure out how to do a tax form in England where he lives because of it.
It's just massive benefits there.
Yeah,
keeps it simple.
Yeah.
You've touched on this a little bit already, but what's the sort of key marketing that's planned over and above what we've already talked about?
So you're going to see a huge ramp up in spending. I think one of the things that I've seen some comments out in the Telegram where people are actually starting to see our ads, which is a good thing. They're seeing some of the trials that we're doing with remarketing. We added five new pixels to our platform now to be able to track more in depth as to where that person's been in the site. Like, did they come to the homepage? Is that where they started at? Did they click on more information for the businesses or more information for the freelancers? Did they get to the registration page and not fill it out? Or did they get to the job creation page and not fill it out? And what we're doing is we're taking that information now and we're targeting ad campaigns into each of those specifically, so that we know that I'm sending freelancing ads at a certain point to a freelancer that's gotten to a certain point. So if they're looking, a freelancer comes in and they say, I click the button, Krios for freelancers, and I read all the stuff about that, and then I go over and search some, how many WordPress guys are on there, and then I leave. Well, I can send them an ad that says, register now, continue the process and that kind of stuff, versus if I see somebody that's gone to the registration page and didn't fill it out, I can say, hey, come back and finish up your registration. You're missing out on an opportunity. So same with the employees or employers. Sorry, we can also do that type of logic based on the pixels that we're now tracking across the site into the digital track platform to be able to see and understand the customers more readily. So I think the marriage of those two platforms, I think, is going to give us an awful lot of information. You'd be surprised. It's almost scary how much information in ad tech we can garner on a person. So with the digital tracks platform, we can follow them. So did they, anywhere there's an ad, we can follow that individual. So, they went to our freelancer site and then they went to Staples to buy a printer or something like that. I can see all that.
Okay.
So, yeah. So I think as we implement more of that logic into the platform, I really want it to be at this point, and this is on me again. I really want it to be at this point, like in December. But what I realized in December was nobody was doing anything. And it was just a horrible time for us, not only to try to spend money because the ads were highly priced because of Christmas and the holidays, but because who's going to hire Christmas week? Who's looking for somebody to do banner ads on Christmas week? No, you're with your family, you're buying presents, you're stuffed on a good meal and all that other kind of stuff. It's like, I had hoped, I guess it's just kind of the timing and where we, if the application had happened and was completed, back in June, the day after I bought the company or something like that, that would have been one thing. We would have had some time to have ramped up for Q1 of 2020, but we're having to do some of that learning now that we would have hoped to have done back in December. So, but I will say that we're getting smarter every day, and it's definitely going to be a very well tuned machine with some of that thing. Some of the other marketing that we're planning on right now is I'm vetting 3 different companies currently that have lists of companies that are like small or startups or people that have just registered for a business in the U.S. to target them with email campaigns. So we've not really done any email short of LinkedIn emails to freelancers. So I think that's going to be, I think we'll probably see some pretty good traction from that as well.
Okay. And we've got one last final question, Dwight. There's obviously you've been looking at some acquisitions. Is there any news that you can share on what's the plan there?
There are 2, and I know I keep saying the 2 acquisitions that are very near and dear to me. At this point, it's more of a problem with me having acted and doing something to close these guys out than it is that the terms are not right. I think we got good terms with both the companies. The primary reason is I really, at this point, need to focus on employer acquisition. I mean, I think that, the next 4 weeks for sure, I've got to spend tuning that engine, getting the right people in play, and just getting it to where we literally are having thousands of jobs show up a day on the site, and that's where we need to be. Prior to getting a whole nother project that I got to put my brain around. There's one project that I've got a friend of mine that actually worked for me many, many years ago that I think I could probably just drop him in charge of that project and I'd feel pretty happy with it. And there's a counter acquisition of some of the technology that they've developed, I think, that makes good sense. But dealing on that one somewhat quick, and it's a good thing about that is it's a lot of money up front to buy, but it's almost an immediate return on the investment in probably a 3 to 4-fold process based on taking the patentable technology that they own and selling it off to another company that we're very close to.
Okay.
So
it's pretty much in one hand and straight out the other. 3 or 4 fold.
It's company and patents in one hand and just licenses to the patents out. So one of the things that I've done very well with Technology Geeks is I own a bunch of patents, and being able to relicense some of that technology out to other people is always a good thing. Build it once, sell it many times. That's what all software people do.
Yeah.
So,
well, that's what Microsoft do now, isn't it? Instead of like buying your package for $99. They now got you. No, it's all right. Just $49.99 a month, and by that time you know it, you would have only upgraded every 5 years. Now you just realize I've just spent $250 for $99 software.
Yeah,
that subscription model seems to be huge everywhere.
Yeah. So that application or that acquisition has those kind of legs. So that, like I say, that one might end up dropping in sooner than later.
Okay. So. And obviously off the back of that, because it's laid into Krios, that obviously helps fuel the numbers that you've talked about in terms of the bonuses.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, quite honestly, if we were able to successfully pull off the acquisition and the sale of those some of those patents to those companies that we actually are very well connected with, I won't even tell you what the profit share would look like on a deal like that. I mean, it would be multi-millions of dollars that would be in the profit share pool just from that paper being signed.
Wow. So pretty much sit tight. You're going to tune and tweak. You've got lots of things going on, and just basically for people to be just a little bit patient, and 3 to 6 months time, I think people may be very happy in terms of the progress. We've seen what you can do in 8 months. I'm so excited to see what you can do in a year, 2 years. I mean,
I think it's just going to get. I think it's going to get. It's just going to get kind of crazy, which is a good thing. I mean, I don't think that we've got a 3-month window for me to be smiling in our interview saying, "Oh my God, we're signing up 2,000 new jobs a day." I think we're going to be there way before that. And in fact, like I've told everybody, I'll give a summary update of the numbers at the end of the month. Right now, nobody's going to get super excited about them, but I think by the end of the month, I could probably project what February is going to look like with some accuracy, and I think everybody will be pretty excited with that. So
awesome. As always, Dwight, I want to say a massive thank you. Well done on the award. I think the whole community would like to thank you for, turning this big ship around and putting a couple of V8s on the back and rocket it into, such a good place. So a massive thank you.
Well, it's it takes a village. It's one of the things that I don't know if there's an audio clip of it. I think there is. If you look at my acceptance speech, I actually shout out our community. We've got a lot of. When I was talking to all these other crypto guys that are there, most of them had some sort of token or interest in one of the projects. And when I spoke of our community in like the Telegram group and how very seldom, if ever, I don't remember seeing somebody just be stupid negative about it in lots of months. I mean, I can't even think back when I actually saw somebody just be, there's a shit coin and it's useless. We don't have that in our community. I think the problems that our support guys went through back in January of last year compared to this January are just vastly different. I think, and I think some of that was, my trying to make amends and basically fulfill the promises I didn't make from the previous administration. But I think we just got a good pack of people in there. I mean, I think as far as a token community goes, I'd put mine against anyone out there. I think we got people that are supporting each other. Somebody's got a question, and one of our other users will pipe up and say an answer. We got people that are giving us good ideas. I mean, any idea is a good idea, but we're actually getting some really good ideas off that. I think we just have a spot-on community.
And I think you have led and changed that in the because if we went back a long time ago, it was very different. And I think it comes down to a couple of things. One, I think you're very transparent with everything, and I think people really appreciate the honesty of what you're doing and the integrity that you show. And I think some of the other key things is you say something and you do something, and people can tangibly see what you're doing or feel the effects or stuff. And I think the third point is that obviously these videos, there's not. I've suggested to loads of companies, look, this works. Regular updates, keep the community involved, keep them up to date, be honest and open, and you create raving fans, if you will, as Tony Robbins likes to say.
The main thing is, though, they got to be willing to be transparent, and there's a lot of people that are nefarious in this industry.
Oh yes.
So there's a lot of people that don't want to say what they're doing.
Indeed.
Fortunately, that's not me.
No, and I think that's appreciated, and it shows in the strength of the community as well. So
yeah, right.
But awesome. Yeah. I know you're down by the lake today, so I just really appreciate your time, Dwight, that you've taken, and a massive thank you. And I'll be looking forward to the end of month update as well.
Great. Yep.
Banking system. It just makes sense to me that would be something that was implemented prior to now, quite honestly, at this point. So I think we'll see a lot of advances in the actual blockchain technology. I do think that 2019 was somewhat of a crypto winter because of all the regulations that have happened. And I think that countries like Singapore that are more favorable to those type of transactions are going to be the beneficiary of it. I would hope that the U.S. government kind of steps in line and understands that this is probably going to be the future, kind of like back in the days. I'm old enough to remember when the first American Express came out and the plastic card, and everybody said, "You're going to pay for gas with a plastic card?" It was, everybody wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
And now everybody's got plastic and not cash. And tomorrow, everybody will have crypto and not dollars or plastic. So it is what's going to happen. I truly hope that our government here in the U.S. Understands that and takes proactive roles and motions to become more friendly like Singapore is.
Yeah, I think two things.
Different models, actually. I think we're going to have to the regulation portion of what you're talking about. I believe that regulation is kind of done by the groupthink of the people somewhere. And I think that when it first came out, there was a lot of what they call FOMO, basically. I'm not going to get rich if I don't invest in it, and all that kind of good stuff. And the crypto winter is something that we've created ourselves. I believe with both of you guys that the only companies that are going to be able to move forward as a cryptocurrency are going to be businesses that have a business. In other words, it's not a let's raise money, kind of like, again, going back to the old enough to remember the .com days. Actually had a business during that time frame, and You used to be able to write down on the back of a napkin and raise $1 million over in San Jose. Well, now you can't do that anymore. And the ICO stage was very much that problem.
Correct.
And you had a lot of failed businesses. You had, to your point, a lot of young people that would get into it, and all of a sudden they had, $1 million in their bank account. It's like, wow, that Lambo looks really nice, doesn't it? And it's that just doesn't happen. But I think in 2020, what's going to be important is we're going to have companies like Krios that use it as a way to share profits from the company, more like a stock. It will be one model. We will have a second model of utility tokens like Ripple that's used as a platform to cross borders, basically. And I do think that we're going to start to see models that come out of probably Asia that look more like a euro. Not that I'm a big fan of the euro economy, but I think what you'll see is you will start to see that some of the smaller countries will start to band together to create a currency that kind of breaks down their borders.
We're already seeing this in Central.
Yeah. So that's kind of my predictions for 2020. I think you'll see 3 different models kind of emerge from it. I hope that President Trump was not, he continues his good work with deregulation instead of re-regulating, and that we actually come up with a good plan here in the U.S. Popular opinion on that question, and that is that if people have a decrease in their normalcy, in other words, we see a market start to crater back out, I don't think that they're going to be looking at cryptocurrencies as an alternative asset class. I do not believe personally that Bitcoin or Ethereum or anything as an asset class is truly an asset class at this point because there's nothing behind it. When here in the U.S., you see it on virtually any business channel. What happens when all of a sudden people start getting nervous about the economy? They buy gold and silver, and a lot of those people buy gold and silver so they can stick in their basement and actually have a hard asset. If the world goes to hell in a handbasket, having a Bitcoin wallet ain't going to do you no good. Having a bar of gold is going to do something. So I kind of think opposite of possibly most of the people on this panel. I think that as far as an asset goes, it's not a solid asset at this point because there's nothing behind it. And when we built Krios and kind of strapped the token on, much to your point, it's really got to be a brick and mortar behind it. There's got to be some sort of an asset behind it for it to actually have value. It can't just be a digital wallet that has no virtual material to it.
I'm going to demur that we have trust and faith in the dollar. You have trust and faith plus data in crypto.
I sort of take a middle point between both of you. I think it's important to have because if one is optimistic about the future as a whole of our species, then one will say that there will be electricity at some point in the future. If it's not, then we have a lot more problems to worry about than our holdings, right? And so to me, whereas gold and silver are very important as part of a portfolio and very secure if everything goes to hell in a handbasket, like you said. But I think the result is somewhere in the middle between, everything goes great and everything goes terrible. It's like a middle line. And I think Bitcoin as an extra asset class or any of these tokens really, my designs are that it is backed by actual holdings, physical locations with vaults and all of that. And you can turn in like like an exchange mechanism where you can bring in your Earth credits and get, you can get coffee beans or whatever if you really wanted to. Those I think will become the standard in a sense. You have these ephemeral. I think Bitcoin will always be there. I think it'll be like the gold standard of crypto in that regard. Yeah, it'll never be a currency. It'll never be useful as a currency because it is the standard by which we measure the entire market. And if it's doing well, ostensibly the entire market's doing well. And if we're making real companies that are operating with foundations built on a blockchain with a token that are backed and actual have like stocks or distributed stocks, then I think we have something real.
Let me clarify the position where I was talking about digital assets.
In recap of 2020, my advice to anybody would be to get into crypto. Look at what some of the people in the panel have said. Use your heart and invest in projects that you believe in. Because to your point, Binance is a perfect example. They took an ICO basically on their own business with their own exchange, which is kind of a really interesting way to do it. But they've increased their value because they are a value. There's actual cash behind that business that's drawing up that B&B price, and that's where I think everybody should be investing is into companies that are like Krios, that are somewhat of a startup and have the ability to have 100-fold increases in valuation based on an actual business behind the token.
Yes, and like you say, it's inflated because we're still dealing with a small segment of the population who understands and is interested in crypto. Once we break through that barrier and into the population at large, that's why it's great what Malaysia's doing, is getting people involved in the ecosystem, but you're not going to find the kind of widespread usage of any of these tokens or the ecosystem itself until we get over the fact that it's so cool and it's a cryptocurrency and all of this other involved stuff that nobody out there really cares about. They care about lifestyle, they care about governance. This is something we haven't even discussed. There aren't any examples, literally no examples out there of truly decentralized governance systems in the cryptocurrencies world. I mean, you can make arguments with certain things, but voting, but a true governance model that solves the tragedy of the commons, that allows people to own together the systems that they're involved with, have a say in how those systems evolve, and thereby a say in how our civilization evolves. Until we find that bit, we're still going to be playing in our own ecosystem, and everything's going to be overinflated by our hopes and dreams that they do well. You know what I'm saying?
Somewhat of a reverse merger, which is unusual. Here in the U.S., we normally, take a pink sheet company, turn it into brick and mortar behind it. We did that with the Krios token. It's been extremely successful. We've seen, actually, as of today, we're sitting at about 1,600% growth on the token's value in the last 8 months since we've owned it. We launched the platform about 3 months ago, 3 weeks ago. Which is a freelancer program across the world. So anybody that's familiar with like Fiverr or Upwork, it's kind of a mashup of those two applications. So everybody here is concerned with wealth creation and Bitcoins and how we can make more money and stuff like that. One of the nice things about the Krios project is we're actually helping people that don't have that. So freelancers are people that work at home, they work in India, they work in Colombia, they work all over the world. They don't have the means to be able to get their name and their skill set out to the world. We give them a marketplace where they can do that. Go to Krios, hire some of our people, help them out. Thanks, Bruce.
Well,
one more thing. Because we are a relatively lightly traded token, everybody that's here that can hear me or is listening, my beautiful wife over here, Teresa, if you give her your business card, I will personally email you for your Ethereum wallet, and we will send you 1,000 free tokens, which hopefully by the end of 2020 will be more than what it costs to eat.
Which would be amazing, let me tell you.
So thank you.
Well, thank you. And Dwight, and it is the award of the Washington Elite is for the best investment of the year. He's done a heck of a job. Make sure you check it out. Congratulations.
Thank you. That's good.